creating lead generation systems, this is something which has come through after about 15 years of work, and this is something I've built and developed over a long period of time. So I'm just introducing this to the world, and hopefully you'll benefit from it. There is no uh, hard and fast rule that what I say is the only way to do things. Again, right? I'm also learning, but this is one way, and we will be focusing on knowledge services. Somebody mentioned that they are selling a product. I think Ratna Kumar had mentioned. If it is a software product, then I consider it as part of knowledge services. I'm not, unless it's a hard product, hardware as such. Pretty much the sales of products online, especially if it's a knowledge related product, knowledge service related product, and if you're selling to B2B, there are similar patterns. And it's very, very distinct from B2C type of products where you're selling, I don't know, sugar and scooters and cars and all that. So there are a lot of nuances here, and we'll explore that in a bit. Right? But let's just go through the basics first, very, very quickly. And so quickly about me, right? Many of you know me very well, and thanks for joining. I was trained as a researcher, so lack of a better word, training is a right way to think about it. 20 plus years I've been learning marketing. Yes, I've scratched the surface a little bit. I think I understand it a little bit, but it's vast, right? And every day something new keeps happening. And as a researcher, when my first job was in a very, very big corporate, and I used to work inside a lab and develop things. I have a few patents in my name. And blowing things up was kind of a job description. You ended up making a lot of mistakes. But being trained as a researcher is also interesting because you are taught to think in a very, very different manner than most other people will be trained. And it's a training. You have to learn this thing. It's not easy. So the perspective you take when you look at problems or look at the world is very, very different than somebody who's, let's say, trained as a product engineer or somebody who's trained as a software engineer. And that perspective has helped me in understanding marketing better, in developing these systems and products and processes, etc. Uh, my corporate job didn't last long, not because I was not good at it, but because I wanted something more challenging. And that's when I started an intellectual property rights firm. There was a firm in between to do reverse engineering, which flopped spectacularly. But yeah, I've tried it. I've been there, done that, grown, sold, you know, and many times failed to do what was required. So it's been a journey. Does that mean uh, that it's always been bad? Not really. It's been a good journey. That's what I would like to say. Now, moving on. Over the past 10, 15 years, 10 years actually, I have been into marketing, for lack of better word, as a consultant, as an agency owner, etc. And I have worked exclusively with services businesses, knowledge services, professional services, and there are a lot of software related services, etc. But services businesses, and that's given me a very unique perspective on the challenges that services businesses face that regular marketing does not solve. We'll just explore that a little bit today. As I said, this is a series, so you're welcome to attend the other, next versions also. Yeah. All right. So let's talk about something called as a marketing mindset. What is that? If you think about marketing as something that is supposed to solve things for a business, what's marketing? Marketing is nothing but it's supposed to bridge the business and the customer, right? And that's what the simplest definition is. There are a lot of other definitions also. I prefer simplicity. And the marketing mindset is nothing but how best can I understand my customer so that whatever I sell to them is easy to sell. Think of it that way. So how does that work then, right? Typically, if you see this side, right, whatever is shown here is how a marketer thinks about marketing. I mean, if you're trained, if you learn marketing, then this is what you're dealing with, right? Every day something new, some new tactic, some new theory comes up. But when you talk to customers, when you talk to clients, this is what happens, right? What do the customers want? Earlier it was just get leads, but since social media has exploded, it's go viral also. I want to be famous and I want to get leads. How do you do it? No idea, doesn't matter. And what about the budget? Well, the budget doesn't exist, right? So I've dealt with this quite often, and what I realize is the complexity of marketing sometimes is artificial. There's a very big reason because marketing was picked up by academia, and once something gets picked up by academia, it's dissected and it's shredded into smaller and smaller and smaller parts, studied, and every piece of it seems important, but it is not really important. And I can give you a very simple example of that. Business has existed for millennia, right? And even without marketing professors, marketing used to happen, and people used to find the best cotton and the best jute and the best sugar and the best spices and things like that. So, to a large extent, a lot of these terminologies are confusing, and the boundaries are not very clear. Where does one end and one begin? So I try to avoid these terminologies as far as possible because I would say it is the area of academia more than the area of practitioner. So if you look at people who practice marketing, they don't talk about all these small, small things. This is something the clients talk about a lot more because they heard it somewhere else, right? The marketing of marketing terms is better than marketing of the services themselves. What does that mean? Somebody comes up with a terminology in marketing and they will publish it everywhere. And within a few years, everybody will talk about it. And it, it is pretty meaningless. I mean, a few years ago, there was a term called outbound marketing, right? And inbound marketing. Ridiculously strange terms, but a few companies benefited from them. And that's what happens, right? So I'm not, I'm not jumping on and saying that, these people are idiots and they don't know what they're doing. They know what they're doing and they do a good job of it. But don't worry about terminology is something I will request all of you because terminologies are going to change and evolve every 2, 3 years. Right now it's AI marketing and AEO and ever so many other terms are popular. But as I said, they evolve, they perish, they change. Forget all that. I mean, at the end of the day, you want to go viral and go get leads. Nothing more, nothing less. So how do you do that? A lot of these terms, when you actually throw it against a very simple way of thinking about business, you need strategies, you need tactics, you need to do execution at the end of the day, and you need to get results. I mean, any part of business which is not getting results or saving money gets cut off, right? It's simple. Businesses are ruthless, have to be ruthless. At the end of the day, uh, a business survives if there's cash flow. If there's no cash flow, well, it perishes. And if something is sucking the cash, it has to be cut off after giving it enough try, right? When you start thinking about marketing, the thinking of marketing is the tricky part because there are so many unknowns. When you start thinking of marketing, you have to start thinking from the strategy, the basic tactics, execution, and finally the results. That's what the expectation is. So should you think about everything shown in this chart here? Not really. Think of it this way, right? Strategy is nothing but understanding the market. Who are you going to sell to? And then the tactical part comes about what are we going to do? What's the plan? Execution is nothing but somebody is doing it. Some specialist is coming and writing and doing the ads and all that. And finally, you expect results. The trouble is the execution piece moves really fast. And that's what is visible to all of us. I mean, all of us see ads every day. Apparently, some 11,000 plus ads are seen by all of us. Yeah, this is data from some research. But our brains register less than 200 or 300 of them. So our brains protect us from the spam of ads and everything that we see online. What we are trying to do here is go beyond that, right? You can do ads, you can do SEO, you can do so many things, and the execution piece moves really fast. It's very visible, so people get very confused. This is what we should do. But the tactical aspect, the planning aspect, that is where you choose what you should do. Should you do social media? Maybe, maybe not. And how do you decide that? Should you do funnels? Should you do ads on Facebook and Google and other places? Maybe. Branding, okay, that's a whole different rabbit hole I don't want to go into. Budgets, how much money should I spend? Right? Somebody came to me and said, I'm going to start a new apparel brand. I said, congratulations. And They said we want to start selling it. I said, okay, go ahead and put together your e-commerce store or whatever that is, and sell it. Was a problem. How much budget should I put for marketing? Interesting question. The simple answer is, if today you want to start an apparel brand and you want to do marketing, you should have at least 2 to 3 lakh rupees of spend per month. That's a minimum expectation in that industry. On the other hand, if you are putting together, let's say, electric vehicle brand, you want to put together a new electric vehicle brand, and you want to start selling electric EV scooters, let us say, right? What is the basic minimum investment required? It runs into tens of crores, right? You need to put a factory, you have to get all these things, you have to brand it, market it, design it. Let us say all the product is ready. Even then, to market it and get it to the right people, to the dealerships, and then sell it, is quite a chunk of money that is required. There's an investment expected for that type of a factory setup. Let us say you want to start oil drilling. And let's say somebody found oil in the middle of the sea, and you are going and pitching, and let's say you're going to build a platform and start extracting oil and sell it. Do you know what is a timeline in which people expect a return from that investment? We're looking at 15 years. 15 years later is when you start making money. Till then, it's all just sunk cost. Nuclear power plant, similar, 25 years. What are we talking? So there is a minimum expected investment required for all businesses. But when it comes to marketing, somehow there's a magical thinking that, it just happens. And I'm not defending marketers in this. What I'm trying to say is it's a cost of business. So understanding the cost of doing business is very important. Now you may say, Anup, how do we decide how much the cost of business is? Look at competitors. Anybody starting a business will automatically want to try and understand what the market looks like. Except one set of people like me who do things because of passion, because of knowledge, because of expertise. And a lot of you today in this gathering are like that. You have an expertise, you have gathered it through years of experience. Maybe you're a very good coder, maybe you're a product manager, maybe you're a lawyer, maybe you're a brilliant contract writer or negotiator, etc. But these are all knowledge services. This comes from your expertise. And you jump into the market and say, let me start a business, and things will just happen. You have not really understood the cost of doing business yet, because from your experience, you know this works and there's demand in the market. A lot of people who are experts, knowledge experts, starting a business, get into this trap, and they rely on referrals. That is where all this collapses for them, because referrals work till they stop work. There's a danger of referrals, which we'll talk about at some other point of time, or maybe in the Q&A session afterwards. But that's an issue that I have seen again and again and again. People start a business based on their experience and expertise, knowledge businesses. All you need is a laptop at the end of the day and a phone, right? And you get to start something. And then they don't know how to get clients, because that part of running a business was not taught ever and not explored ever, and nobody talks about it either. They're stuck. So all these things, I mean, it looks so complicated, right? I mean, if I ask some of you who are here to repeat this after I close this slide, you will not be able to, right? Except for the people who are in the marketing services. I know some of you are. You may remember some of this jargon. But how do we think about market? How do we make it simpler? So I've come up with this framework. I mean, call it a framework or acronym. How it's just a way to think about doing marketing in a much simpler manner, and ignoring all the jargons. Let's see if we can make it work here, right? So TOM stands for target audience, offer, message. That's it. I have boiled everything down into three things. There's a target audience, there's an offer, and there's a message. And this is the framework you will use to create your lead generation system. And ultimately, if the marketing is not getting the leads and sales, it's not doing its job. Let's look at target audience, offer, and messages. Three things. Very simple, very easy to understand, isn't it? What is this thing called target audience? Target audience is the people you want to sell to. Very simple. Target audience is all about understanding the audience, the market, the competition, the persona, the cultural subtext. This is very important. In India, we have a lot of sayings about, how culture changes, how water, food, environment, weather changes every few hundred miles or so, right? And there's a reason that it's important, because at the end of the day, you're selling and you're marketing to human beings. You're not selling to robots, at least not yet, right? You're not selling to robots yet. So when you sell, you need to understand who you are selling. Again, right? Marketing does not work from business forward, it works from market backwards. In the sense, the end customer I want to talk to, I want to work backwards from them towards the business. What does that look like? Again, it's very, very difficult for people who are the business owners because they are looking business forward. This is what I do. This is what I do. How do I take it to the market? I look at the market differently because I say, what is the market like? Who is there and what problems do they have that you can solve? Reverse the direction. So if we start with the target audience, we are not starting with strategy, business strategy, budget and wonderful charts and 5 years plan and the goal for the next quarter. None of that. Throw everything out of the window. Yes, we will connect everything. It's not like, that those things are not important. Reverse the direction. You start with the target audience. Understand them. What does that mean? What does it mean? Understanding the target audience. It is the scariest exercise for most entrepreneurs I work with. I ask them to go and meet 5 people. Many of the people I work with are very introverted. So am I, right? And that's very, very difficult. And they say, okay, I can go and meet people in a conference, but no, that's not the right place. You have to just go and meet people for a cup of coffee, try to understand the problem within the context of your business. If there's a problem that they're solving, it's very difficult. You have to, it's a skill you have to develop over a period of time, because no audience member comes and says, this is a problem, Mr. So and so, and you can solve it. Not true. It doesn't happen, right? Let's say you have a swelling in your foot. I'm not saying a toothache or a heart attack, right? Those are, we know who to go to. Let's say you have a swelling on your foot. Again, a service example, but it's a more common example. Who do you go to? Which doctor should you go to? You have to go to a doctor or the hospital at least, right? Who will you approach? We don't know. Why? Because we don't know what the problem is. So you will go to a general practitioner and they may give you a bunch of tests, diagnostics may happen, and then they say, okay, this seems to be this type of a issue. It could be a heart issue that is causing a swelling in your foot. I found out this can happen, right? It could be a sprain somewhere, right? It could be, I don't know, fluid filling into the foot because of some infection, something. It could be hundreds of various root problems that can cause that symptom. The issue is the same thing happens with your target audience too. Everybody who is willing to buy from you is able to see the symptoms of the problem. They don't know the problem. You as an expert, as an expert, have the responsibility not only to tell the audience that this is a problem that is causing these symptoms, but also to solve the problem. What does that look like? This happens quite often, and a lot of marketers will understand that. Clients come and say that, hey, I want to do social media. What do you mean by doing social media? It typically looks like this. We had Dasera and Ganesha Utsav here, and we'll have Diwali coming up. I want nice images created for those. Is that social media? What is the problem you're solving? If I and this is something I have done in the past, where the client comes and haggles about, what, this image, I want that to be pink color, and here the text has to be bigger. My logo is too small; it has to be this side and this size. So a lot of inputs for that one image, right? But think about it. Social media, let us say something as simple as LinkedIn, right? You have to post once a day. The standard practice now is you post once a day and go and comment on at least 20 posts every day. The client is not going to do that. They want the best looking image every single day. When I tell the client you have to do this for 100 days, they say, no, 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 the festival is coming. I need something for that. Why? Again, not blaming the client. They say, I want to do social media, but social media is, why do they want to do social media? What is the problem they are trying to solve? Again, remember the clients don't know the problem. Clients know the symptom. Typical answer I have seen is, I want to be present. My competition is present on LinkedIn, on Instagram. I want to be present on LinkedIn or Instagram, right? That's one thing that they have seen. The symptom is FOMO, uh, fear of missing out. Another thing is my peers, people from my colony, my WhatsApp groups, etc., are going ahead and posting nice images during Diwali and Ganesha festival and other things. I also want to be there. So it's a status symbol problem. It is not actually a social media or a marketing problem. It is me being popular, me standing out. That's important. The symptom there is FOMO, but I also want to stand out. What is the root cause of this? It comes from, okay, I'm not going to the ego part and all that, but it is important to stand apart and not use the same image everybody is using because I want to be seen as special, as different. It's a problem of differentiation actually. The symptom is being felt, but the problem is problem of differentiation. Can I showcase myself as different, better, prettier, taller, shorter, whatever that is? So many a times the problem statements around marketing is very, very deeply hidden in the human psychology, behavioral psychology. That's why a lot of marketers have to study psychology really. I'm not saying all of you have to, but when you as a business tries to go and market your products and services to a customer, the customer doesn't buy because they are not able to relate what you're selling with the symptom they are feeling. Symptom, not the problem, symptom. Right? You can go and tell a person that, hey, you know what, my service is going to make you the best speaker in the country. Let's see, TEDx speaker, etc. The challenge is that person is unable to get up and speak in an office presentation, and you're telling this person, I will make you the best speaker in the country. There's a mismatch. The symptom being felt is I am afraid to speak. I am scared to stand up and give an opinion. I am afraid of being judged because I feel that my command over the English language is very poor. And now you are going and selling him TEDx speaker dreams. How does that match? The symptom this person feels is very, very far away from what you're selling. So you have to sell outcomes to the symptom, not to the problem. It's a very, very difficult thing to understand, right? You don't sell to the problems, you usually sell to the symptoms. And then when you start working with the client to solve the problem, it's almost like this. Your car is making a noise. You go to the mechanic. It's a scary experience for many people. They will open it up and say, everything has to be changed, including the engine, because everything is bad. And you're driving an electric vehicle, and they say you have to change the engine. Silly things what happen. Think about it, right? Your car is making a noise. Until unless you are a mechanic yourself or you're well aware of how cars work, the automobile works, you're going to take it to the specialist. They are going to do a diagnostic, and they're saying, okay, we'll remove the noise, and this is what has to be done to remove the noise. And this is the charges for it. Very clear, right? That transaction is well known to all of us. Therefore, we accept the process. Saying, take it to the mechanic, they'll open it up, they'll diagnose it, they will give you the reasons, and they will send you a bill for it. And you approve it, they will do the work. This is the process. This is a standard, socially accepted process. But a similar process doesn't exist for transaction between your business and the client. You see the problem? I am running a business for which a standard transaction does not exist in the client's mind. How do I make that happen? Is another question I need to answer. So recently, I took upon this misadventure of getting my house repainted. And it's quite a nightmare if you haven't done it a few times. Finding the right vendor, finding the right color. Oh, trust me, I mean, finding the right color can really cause a lot of drama, and it's interesting. But finding the right color, the shade of the color, the timing of the painting, covering of the furniture, and especially if it's a lived home, right? You have to have the furnitures protected and the cleaning afterwards, the mess it creates, all that stuff. Right? You start a simple process like painting your house. And if you have never done it, you do not know the mechanism, the process, the transaction. Now the painter will come and say it will take 3 days, sir, and you can double it. You can just double the time he or she says it's going to be 6 days. Clearly, I am telling by experience. Why do they quote 3 days? Because 3 days is a comfortable thing, right? But usually it ends up taking 6 days. They will say this is what it will cost, but the cost will get inflated by at least 25% because as you are painting 3 walls, you will say, you know what? I think I can paint that also. What is that? That's a grill, or that might be a window. It costs more, and it's more labor intensive. See, until unless you know the standards of transaction, the process of transaction, especially for a service, it's very difficult to make the client believe this is the way it is to be done because they feel a symptom. You are trying to sell a solution. You are not trying to sell a problem or a diagnostic package any point of time. There's a mismatch here. And that is the first stage where understanding of the audience, the market, the competition, the persona, the cultural subtext matters a lot. In India, you cannot just walk into somebody's house wearing shoes. It is not expected of. It's a cultural thing. We do a lot of things subconsciously, which we do because we are part of that culture. If we were an outsider, it would be an odd experience. Eating food with your hand is a very common experience here, but that's not the common experience everywhere else. Because you're steeped in the culture, sometimes standing apart from it and seeing how people behave is very important. And why is cultural subtext important? Because if you are trying to sell certain services in certain communities, you have to sell it in a very different manner. For example, and this is a very, very interesting example, one of my friends told me, you cannot do fresh fish delivery services in Kolkata as successfully as you can do it in Bangalore because there's a cultural subtext. You cannot sell get rich quick apps in Chennai as well as you can sell in some other parts of the country. Cultural subtext exists. You cannot sell become a millionaire schemes in Kerala as well as you can sell in other parts. Cultural subtexts are there. So the way you think about what you are selling is derived from who you are selling. Many times we don't think about it at all. In fact, I have spoken to so many people, for example, marketers. And then again, like marketers are different. I mean, they do different things, right? So marketers who are selling, let us say, design services, and they just go and pitch, I do design, I do design, I do design. Or somebody is selling social media services, and I do social media, I do social media. But is but what is the outcome for the customer? For whom? Are you selling it in Gujarat or Kerala or Bengal or Delhi? Where are you selling it? How is it perceived there? What is the importance of it? If you do not understand these things, selling becomes incredibly difficult. Yes, there might be people who are very urbanized and exposed to the service earlier, therefore they can buy from you. See, these are people who are aware of the transaction and process realities. And if your process deviates from how they expect it to be, you will lose the client. So there are dangers there. But anyway, we'll talk about this in much more detail in a different session. Most service providers, how do they package their offer? I am a lawyer or I am an expert at website creation. Come to me, I will create your website. How do customers buy services? Tell me exactly what you're selling. What is the result I get? And then I will pay you. There's a mismatch. How is pricing done for services? I know a product. Okay. For example, if I say car, different people will think about different cars. Right? If I say car, which is safe or a safe car, you will think about a different brand. If I say luxury car, you will think about a different brand. Now I will come to you and say, hey, you know what? Here is a Mercedes and you can buy it for 2 lakh rupees. In India, right? Will you believe that deal? You'll think something is wrong here. Why? Mercedes is a luxury or a premium segment car and it's supposed to cost a certain amount of money, maybe 50 lakh, 75 lakh, whatever that is. If it is being sold for 2 lakh rupees, are you selling me a toy car or are you scamming me? Because immediately that alarm bell goes off. But step back and think what happened. You already have a certain expectation of pricing around a Mercedes car versus, let us say, a Maruti Suzuki car, right? A Suzuki car. So you have a certain price range expectation of a Maruti Suzuki car versus a Mercedes car. Therefore, if that expectation is broken, you feel there's something off. How do you price something? Especially, how do you price a service? There's nothing to touch or feel. Outcome is also not guaranteed. I cannot guarantee that your business is going to flourish by 30% per annum after I'm done with you. No, nobody can guarantee that. There are a lot of external factors. So how do you price what you do? Worst case scenario, let us say you figure out a pricing mechanism. You underprice. You go and it's happened to me, right? And I go and meet somebody and I tell them, hey, this is going to cost you about 2 lakh rupees. And they look at me and they walk away. And then later on, you realize that actually sold for 25 lakh rupees, the same service. It was specialized and whatnot, right? And you think, hey, that is so stupid. I could have done it for 20,000. Agreed. But the perception around price is also a perception around value. Price is an indicator of value, especially if there is nothing tangible. If there is nothing to touch or feel, price becomes a indicator of value. And if price is an indicator of value and you overprice something and you don't package it well, you're going to lose the deal. So you have to price something, you have to package it well, you have to present it well. So if you go in a torn jeans and a torn t-shirt to some executive's office and try to sell a service for 50 lakh rupees, they'll say, something is not right. I've never heard of you, man. There are a lot of objections. So how to talk about pricing and objection handling? It's a whole problem by itself, right? When you think about services. And so everything around what you sell comes under that O. And finally, the message. M is what bridges the T and O. Sounds boring. What am I talking about here? So just a framework, right? How do you sell something? Now, there's a very famous car ad, a copy ad about Rolls Royce, where it says the only noise it makes is the ticking of the clock, or something like that. I might be butchering that sentence, but that's the sentence. The sentence says the only sound it makes is the ticking of the clock, or something like that. Basically, how soundproof it is. And it's an older ad, I think 60s, 1960s. It's a message, but think about it. It's an ad. There's a car, there's a copy, the write up, everything is there, right? And all together, all of these things combined is what your message is. The platform, what you write, the medium, maybe it's a video instead of a write up. Maybe it's an audio. Maybe it is a podcast. Who knows, right? And the analytics, how you measure whether this message is worked on. All that is packaged under M. And why is it important? What am I selling here? Nothing. I'm just telling you a very simple framework of thinking about marketing. How do you sell your services? How you design a system to generate leads. If you understand your target market, let us say you precisely understand the target market to be people who have done their PhD from US and worked in a corporate for 5 years and are currently exploring entrepreneurship in mechanical engineering related fields. That is my target audience that I want to talk to. And it happens that they all are from southern India. Therefore, there's a cultural subtext. All of them happen to be in their 30s, 40s, and probably married, have 2 kids, and living in the metro and things like that. That's a persona, part of the person who what they are, and the problems and troubles they are facing is this. And you have an offer to get them started in this expertise driven market that they are entering, in the mechanical engineering market. They need a lot of sampling because they're going to build something, and you have sample creation services and product creation services that you want to sell to them. How do you package it? The problem is starting samples. You are creating something, the samples are going difficult to come by because if you source it from China or something, they need you to buy 1,000 units. I'm giving a very realistic scenario, by the way. You can create it, you can just create 10 units and your charges are much lower and this faster turnaround, etc. So the problem statement is very clear, the offer is very clear, but how do you sell it to them? How do you present your offer in front of them? That's the message. That's the problem that you're trying to solve. And that is everything about taking your service, products, and putting it in front of the customer in the best manner possible. First impression, right? And continuously talking about it and engaging that client till they are ready to buy. So that is what Tom is all about. Okay, moving on. We spoke about this a little bit. I mean, why knowledge services are challenging to sell? Because first of all, they're intangible. They are not positioned well in the customer's mind. As I said, car versus a fast car versus a luxury car, the positioning is very different. Different brands come to many a times knowledge service or knowledge service providers end up talking about their expertise. I have so many years of experience. I have worked with so and so company. I have so many people who I've worked with, and I have so many degrees, and I have written so many papers, and I've spoken at this particular, let's say, award function, or my articles have appeared. So the customer looks at you and say, "I don't care. I care about the outcome you are giving. It's not that what you have done is not valuable, but in that particular context of that transaction, it is not valuable." Comparison, okay, this is another human problem, right? If I cannot compare what you're selling to me, I don't trust it. Something completely new in the market is incredibly difficult to sell. Till either it should be free, and there's a recent example of ChatGPT, by the way, 2023, right? November is when I think ChatGPT was released. The AI chat system was released. AI existed 2-3 years before that, but because it was free and millions of people could jump in and just type away and see something completely new and be amazed by it, it took off. If it was paid from day one, it would not have taken off. There's no comparison, right? There's nothing to compare this new product with. So I have to experience it somehow. So that's a selling strategy. Okay? Then trust. Okay, I have to solve this problem and I am willing to buy a solution, but why should I buy it from you? Nobody knows about you, or 10 people have worked with you, but they are not happy. Oh, ever so many trust building criteria and value versus price. We spoke about this, right? What is the value I get versus what's the price? If the value I get is very, very high, the price has to match that value, perceived value. There's a very interesting service. Um, it's a turnaround service where people come in a van and they will clean your private jet. Anybody here who owns a private jet, you'll probably hire those guys to clean your private jet when after a few hours of flying, etc. Right? So these folks will come. They have all the equipment in their van. They have all that chemicals and all those things, and they have to do a very good job. It's a very large machine, right? They'll come, they'll do it within so many hours, and they will charge a good amount of money. It's about $12,000 or something is what they charge. Right? So the perceived value of a clean jet is that. Right? It's not like washing a car. So the value and your price have to match. If your price is too low, then it's just suspicious. If the price is too high, it is unbelievable. Nobody buys it, and it's a challenge because there are no comparisons here, right? And it gets worse. If you say you are the best copywriter in the world, what is the value of your services versus the junior copywriter who's just entered the market? It's a little trickier than what we think about. But where is this going? How do you build lead generation systems with it? If you have all these things ready, and you know how to create a message, all you have to do is start sending messages on LinkedIn and Instagram and other places to the right people. To create a list and start sending it. That's your lead generation system. And you can, you can automate the entire thing. I wish it was that. It is not. Right? So today we are trying to deal with as many questions as possible. We are not trying to solve all of them. As I said, it's going to be 8 or 10 different sessions. It takes that long. But we'll deal with all these problems one by one and come up with answers. So let me leave it with one case study, and then we'll get into quick Q&A, and before we finalize. So I recently concluded a consulting assignment, a 3-month consulting assignment with a performance marketing agency. So it's a marketing agency who has come to me for improving their lead generation, right? It's a 10-year-old marketing agency, by the way, and they have done some incredible work. They have worked with some very, very big names. They're still suffering from lead generation. The founder is always stressed because the profit margins are so low because the pricing, they are not able to increase the pricing. In fact, clients are pressurizing them to reduce the pricing, comparing them to every other agency which runs ads and Google ads and a bunch of other things, right? But you know what? This agency had something they were doing and they did not realize how different it is and how unique it is. What they were doing is they were going and talking to old brands which are offline, saris and apparel brands, Indian brands, Indian western wear brands, uh, and they were saying we will get you online, and they were helping them build out the entire e-commerce portal with partners and then run ads on top of it and get the traffic and get the sales. And these guys were just focused on the performance marketing part of it. When I heard the entire narration and figured out exactly what they do step by step, I realized what the way you position yourself does not reflect the reality of who you are. This was a simpler assignment, trust me. So we just pivoted and we said, you know what, let's talk about growth partnership and let's talk about offline to online, right? And let's talk about the sales percentage sale increase. Yes, that positioning worked really well. They started getting inquiries, they started talking to more people. Second problem they were facing is a pricing problem. But when you're not compared to performance marketers, right? You're not compared to A, you're compared to B now, suddenly your pricing can change. So now the pricing change with a monthly retainer plus a percentage of the revenue. And they were promising revenue, just imagine. So with their experience, they could promise revenues and say, give us a percentage of revenue. So there is skin in the game and we are willing to take on this journey along with you, Mr. Klein. And it worked. Now, one of the things they were not doing is they were not using AI, obviously, for various reasons, but I managed to introduce a lot of AI related stuff to them. And you won't believe things like proposal making, which used to take 7 days, 8 days, started happening in half a day. Right? Custom proposals, because these are very big ones. Uh, Reliance on referrals came down, where they would be begging for referrals all the time. That came down really fast. 7 deals in the pipeline, in basically in the proposal stages, right? From apparel brands. Because when they pitched that we are going to do growth partnership and we are going to have a skin in the game here, we are going to get paid when you get paid, people were willing to give it a try. De-risking happened there. The offer was so well crafted that the risk was almost zero. And in 60 days time, they also got 11 qualified leads. When I say qualified leads, which match their criteria, this many millions of sales and other things, and 11 qualified leads. That's when our assignment ended. But they're in a good place today. They know exactly how to get leads. They know exactly whom to talk to. So the target audience was very well specified. They have a list of people, an Excel sheet filled with company names and the CEO and the CXOs and all their numbers and email IDs and whatnot and their LinkedIn ID and things like that. Spend a good amount of money and doing that. But that it's so sharply defined that picking any one person or any one company from there, we know what is the criteria under which the company falls. I'm presenting this case study because this is a services company which went from being called a performance marketing agency to a growth path. The shift was massive, and that shift has enabled them to get better clients faster, get clients with while not haggling for price, so they can dictate a price today. They have a future prospect because they are able to show the clients that we can get you the actual results. And all this is just a positioning game. I call it a positioning game. There might be slightly bigger things than that, but that's what it is. Selling services requires you to understand the client's requirements really well and positioning yourself well. Reflect what you do. Don't boast about things you cannot achieve because you'll be caught very, very fast. So thank you so much for listening so patiently without disturbing. And I hope none of you had a nap in between, but we'll find out soon enough. So we have another 10, 15 minutes. Let's go ahead and do a Q&A now.